I was 8 years old when I fell off a cliff. I didn't fall. I was pushed. And for 14 years, no one believed me. I wasn't even sure myself, until the day I found the envelope, and the truth exploded in everyone's face. But before I get there, I need to tell you how it all started. I remember the wind, the smell of wet earth, from the sound of trees swaying, and my mother's hand holding mine tightly. We were on a trail. It was a Sunday. My father had insisted that we leave. He said we needed fresh air, that the mother was very tense, that I was too attached to her. I didn't want to go. Neither does my mother. But he insisted. And when my father insisted, there was no way to say no. My father was always like that. Controller, but in a quiet way. The way no one notices. He didn't scream. It didn't fit. He just decided. And that's it. I decided what we were going to eat for dinner, where we were going to spend our holidays, what clothes could my mother wear, who could she talk to. Baby, don't you think it's better to stay at home today? He said with a smile, and my mother canceled the meeting with her friend. I think this blouse is too low cut, right? He commented lightly, and my mother changed her clothes. I was a child. I didn't understand. I thought every father was like that, but my mother understood. She knew she was trapped. I just didn't know how to get out. That morning, he woke up early, prepared coffee, made pancakes. He called us to the table with that wide smile. Today is Adventure Day, he announced. My mother looked at him in surprise. Adventure? Trail, waterfall, clean air. You two need to get out of this house for a bit. I had agreed to tidy the closet today. The closet can wait. He cut in, still smiling. We need to spend time together. Like family. He always used that word when he wanted us to obey. My mother looked at me. I looked at her. And we understood. We had no choice. And the trail was beautiful. There were purple flowers, stones covered in moss, and a tiny waterfall along the way. I held my mother's hand and jumped through puddles. She smiled, but it was that smile that didn't reach her eyes. My father was in front, on your back, without saying anything, just walking, too fast. I tried talking to him a few times. Dad, look at that butterfly. He didn't respond. Dad, can I get a flower? Silence. My mother squeezed my hand and whispered, leave him alone, love. He's thinking, always somewhere else, always far away. After about 20 minutes, my father stopped, turned, and he looked at my mother with an expression that I couldn't decipher. You always delay everything, right? My mother blinked in surprise. We're walking normally. Normal? You guys are holding me back. I wanted to get to the waterfall before noon. But she's 8 years old, love. Her legs are small. That's why she needs to learn to walk faster. You spoil her too much. My mother shook my hand. I looked up. I saw her mouth twitch. Let's go, he said, turning around again. The trail became increasingly narrow. On one side, the stone wall. On the other, the ravine. Down there, it was deep. Too deep. There was only grass, stone, and silence. I started to get scared. I held my mother's hand tighter. Calm down, my love. I'm here, she whispered. But she was also scared. I felt it. I felt it in the way she breathed, by the way she avoided looking down, by the way she looked at my father, up front, as if she were measuring his every step. Suddenly, my father stopped again, this time, right on the edge. He kept looking down, in silence, as if measuring something. It's beautiful here, he said, without taking his eyes off the abyss. Let's go, my mother asked. Her voice was shaking. Why? Are you afraid? It's not that. I just think it's better to go back. You always think it's better to run away, right? His tone changed. It got cold. Sharp. My mother didn't respond. He took a step towards her, slowly, calculated. He looked into her eyes, and he spoke softly, in a whisper that I could barely hear. You should stop being so afraid. And then he did something I didn't expect. He gave a push. It wasn't strong. It wasn't violent. It was a touch. Just that. But my mother had her foot poorly supported, right on the edge. She staggered. He tried to hold on to the stone wall. He grabbed my hand tightly, and we both fell. I remember her scream, mine too. Of the sky turning upside down, of the stones passing too fast, from the branch that scratched my arm. From impact, I'm dry, brutal. It took all the air out of my lungs. I hit him on the back. I couldn't breathe. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. My chest hurt. My head was spinning. I thought I was going to die. My mother fell next to me. She bumped her shoulder. Her face hit a rock. I saw blood. She let out a low, choked moan, and then fell still. Too quiet. Mother? I called, still out of breath. She didn't respond. Mother? Nothing. I started to cry. I thought she had died. I thought I was going to die too. I looked at the sky, saw the clouds, and thought, we're going to die here and no one will know. But then, she moved, slowly, sore. He opened his eyes. He looked at me, and he whispered, in a hoarse voice, be quiet. I didn't understand. Mom, you're bleeding. He is. Quiet. Her tone was urgent, scared, as if she was protecting me from something. I obeyed. I lay there, in pain, afraid, looking at the sky. I heard footsteps upstairs. My father's voice. Are you all okay? My mother didn't respond. She just shook my hand, strong, as a warning. He shouted again, louder, "I'm going to seek help! Stay there!" And he left. We stayed there, alone, in the middle of the woods, with my body hurting, with blood flowing, and the heavy silence, too heavy, until my mother whispered, "He pushed us." I looked at her. What? He pushed. I felt it. It wasn't an accident. But he is our father. He wouldn't do that. She closed her eyes. A tear ran down her bruised face. I don't know what he's capable of anymore, daughter. I don't know anything anymore. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to understand. But my head hurt. My body hurt. And I was afraid. Scared of my own father. The ambulance took almost an hour to arrive. When he arrived, my father was there, desperate, crying, yelling, saying it was an accident, that the trail was dangerous, that he had warned us to be careful, that he was distracted for just a second. "I will never forgive myself," he screamed, kneeling on the floor. The paramedics believed it. Everyone believed, except me. And I was hospitalized for 3 days. I fractured 2 ribs. I sprained my ankle. I was purple from my neck to my waist. My mother stayed for a week. He dislocated his shoulder, hit his head, and needed stitches on his face. He had bruises all over his body. Doctors said she was lucky, which could have been much worse. My father didn't leave her side. He carried flowers. I had chocolate. I apologized all the time. "I should have held you," he repeated, holding her hand. "I should have been more careful. I will never forgive myself. Never." My mother just looked at the wall. He didn't respond, didn't react, as if it were far away, very far away. Once, when my father went out to buy food, I asked, "Mom, can we tell someone?" She turned her face slowly. He looked at me with deep, tired eyes. "Tell what?" "That he pushed us." She closed her eyes. He took a deep breath. "No one will believe it, but it's true. It doesn't matter. He will say it wasn't, that I'm making up, that I hit my head and I'm confused. What if we insist?" She opened her eyes. He looked at me with a sadness I had never seen before. "Then he'll do worse." And I understood. We were trapped. When we returned home, everything changed. My father became even more controlling, more present, more attentive. But it wasn't affection. It was surveillance. He decided everything. What we ate, where we went, who we talked to. It said it was for our safety, that he couldn't risk another accident. He locked the doors, checked the windows. I accompanied my mother to the bathroom, waiting outside. "I just want to make sure you're okay," he said, smiling. My mother didn't react. I accepted everything. Shut up. Always silent. I tried to ask once, when we were alone in the kitchen, "Mom, did Dad really push us?" She dropped what she was doing. He looked at me with wide eyes, full of fear. Never say that again. But never again. She had never yelled at me. Never. I stayed quiet, scared, and I never spoke again. But I didn't forget. I remember the feeling, from the push, from the look in his eyes before he fell, the way it took him so long to get help, the way he only came back, desperate, when there were people around. He didn't go get help. He went to wait for us to die. And over the next few years, I put the pieces together, slowly, without understanding it properly, but putting it together. He observed every gesture, every word, every look, and I realized that my father was not who he pretended to be. He was a monster, and my mother knew. Badass couldn't speak, because if he did, he would do it again. Until, at 22, I found the envelope, and I understood everything. I understood why he tried to kill us. I understood what my mother was hiding, and I understood the secret they kept for 25 years. But before I tell you about the envelope, you need to know what happened when I was a teenager, because that's when I started to realize that my father wasn't who he pretended to be, and that my mother was hiding something much bigger than a simple accident, something that had started 25 years ago, long before I was born, and it was going to blow up in everyone's face. After the fall, everything got worse, much worse. My father transformed, or rather, he stopped pretending. He started to control every second of our lives. He said it was protection, that after what happened, he couldn't risk losing us again. "You are everything to me," he repeated, with that smile that didn't reach his eyes. But protection doesn't leave you suffocated. Protection doesn't keep you indoors. Protection does not force you to lie. I was 9 years old when I realized that we were no longer alive. We survived. My mother no longer went out alone. He always went along. Supermarket, pharmacy, bank, anywhere. He was there, from the side, observing. "I just want to make sure you're safe," he said, placing his hand on her back. But it wasn't protection. It was control. I saw it in her eyes. I saw the way she looked at the door, as if measuring the distance, calculating whether I could run. But he never ran. She stopped answering the phone. She stopped talking to her friends. He stopped laughing. I remember she was different before the fall, before everything gets heavy. She sang. I made cake. He took me to the park. He had a good laugh, the one that makes you laugh along without even knowing why. But after the fall, it went out. It became a shadow. Once, Aunt Vera called. She was my mother's sister. They were close. At least they were. I answered the phone. "Hey, my love, is your mother there?" "Yes, Aunt." "Wait." I went to call. My mother was in the kitchen, washing dishes. My father was sitting in the living room, reading the newspaper. "Mom, it's Aunt Vera." My mother looked at me. He looked at my father. He didn't look up from the newspaper but said, "She says she's busy." "But," it says. My mother lowered her head. He went back to washing the dishes. I stood there holding the phone, not knowing what to do. "What's up, daughter? Is she coming?" Aunt Vera asked from the other side. She's busy now, Aunt." "Busy? But I just want to say hi." "Sorry, Aunt. Goodbye." I hung up. My mother didn't look at me. He just kept washing, and I felt a tightness in my chest that I couldn't explain. This became routine. Every time someone called, my father decided whether my mother could answer or not, and almost always, she couldn't. "She needs to rest," he said. "She's not well," he explained. "She asked not to bother," he lied. And everyone believed, because my father was convincing, educated, always smiling, always worried. Nobody suspected. But I started to get suspicious. I started to notice things. Small, almost invisible, but they were there. Like the way he checked my mom's cell phone all day, when she was in the shower, when she was sleeping. He would pick up the device, look at the messages and calls, and then put it back in the same place, as if nothing had happened. I saw, several times. Once I asked, "Dad, why are you looking at Mom's cell phone?" He stopped. He looked at me with that serious face. "I don't move, but I saw, you saw it wrong, and that's it. End of conversation." Or the way he kept his car keys, always in your pocket, always with him. My mother couldn't drive. He said it was for her safety, that after the fall, she could get dizzy, having a crisis, get hurt. "I better drive," he said. "That way I can calm down." But it wasn't tranquility. It was prison, because without a car, she wasn't going anywhere. And without going anywhere, she didn't see anyone. And without seeing anyone, she was alone, with him. I was 10 years old when I encountered the first strange thing. It was by accident. I was looking for my sketchbook. I thought I left it in my parents' room. I entered. I looked in the dresser. Nothing. Then I opened my father's nightstand drawer, and I saw it. An envelope. Yellow. Old. With the name written by hand. Clarice. It wasn't my mother's name. My mother's name was Helena. Who was Clarice? I took the envelope. It was light. There was something inside, but not much. I went to open it, but I heard footsteps in the hallway. My father. I threw the envelope back. I closed the drawer. I ran out. "What are you doing here?" he asked, standing in the doorway. "I was looking for my notebook." "And did you find it?" "No." He looked at me, delayed, as if he was trying to read my thoughts. "Don't touch other people's things," he said slowly. "Sorry, go play." I left, but I didn't forget. Clarice, who was she? I tried to ask my mother, but I couldn't. Every time I went to speak, my father was close by, always close, and I knew that if I asked him in front of him, it would be worse. So I waited. I waited weeks, until one day he left. He went to the bank, said it would take a while. I ran to my mother's room. "Mom, who is Clarice?" She was folding laundry. It stopped instantly. It turned white. "What?" "Clarice. I found an envelope with that name on it in Dad's drawer." She dropped her clothes. He looked at the door. He looked at me. "You didn't move, right?" "No, I only saw the name." She took a deep breath. He sat on the bed. She looked tired, very tired. "Clarice was," she began but stopped. "What was it?" "Nothing." He forgets. "Mother." I said to forget it. She had never yelled at me like that, not even after the fall. I stayed quiet, scared. She noticed. He passed his hand over his face. He sighed. "I'm sorry, my love. Sorry, I can't talk about it." "Why?" "Because your father won't let you." "But why?" She looked at me with eyes full of tears. "Because he's afraid." "Afraid of what?" She didn't respond. He just cried. And I understood that Clarice was important. Important enough to make my mother cry. Important enough for my father to hide. Over the next few months, I started paying more attention. In everything. In the silences. In the looks. In the cut conversations. And I noticed a pattern. And every time someone mentioned the past, my father would change the subject. "Baby, remember that trip we took before?" "I don't remember," he said. "But you loved that place." I said I don't remember. And that's it. End. Every time someone old came on TV, he changed the channel. "Dad, I was watching. This program is boring." But I changed. Late Kentans. And every time my mother tried to talk about before, he would shut her down. Not with words. With looks. That look that said, "Shut up, or it will be worse." And she was silent. I was 11 years old when I heard the conversation. It was early in the morning. I woke up thirsty. I went to the kitchen, and I heard voices. My mom, my father. They were arguing. Low, but you could hear it. "I can't live like this anymore," my mother said. "How to live? Pray. Afraid. Lying. You're not lying. You're protecting us." "Protecting from what?" "The truth always comes out. Not if I don't let it." Silence. Then my father's voice. Low. Cold. "You know what happens if you talk." "I know." "Then be quiet. What if I don't make it? You'll make it, because you love me. I'm afraid of you. It's the same thing. I went back to the room shaking. I didn't understand everything, but I understood enough. My mother was in prison, and my father was the jailer. And the years passed. I grew up. The situation did not improve. My father continued to control. My mother kept disappearing, and I kept putting the pieces together. Until, at 22, I decided to look for it. Really look for it. Find Clarice. And when I found it, everything made sense. The fall, the silence, the fear, all. Because Clarice wasn't a friend. She was not a relative. Clarice was my father's first wife, and she was dead. And my mother knew how. I was 12 years old when I started really investigating. Not because I was brave, but because I was scared. Scared of waking up one day and my mother is no longer there. Scared that my father would do it again. The first thing I did was look on the internet. I waited for my father to leave. I took the old computer from the room. I typed, Clarice plus accident plus 2000. The year was kicking. I was born in 2003, so anything before that made sense. I pressed enter, and it appeared. Woman dies after fall on trail. Husband survives. The news was from June 2000, 25 years ago. I clicked, and I read it. Clarice Mendes, 29 years old, died on Saturday afternoon after falling from a cliff while hiking in Serra do Corvo. She was accompanied by her husband, Roberto Alves, who managed to escape hold and survived. According to him, his wife slipped, and he tried to catch her, but he couldn't. Roberto was found in a state of shock by other hikers. Clarice's body was located hours later. The police are investigating, but everything points to an accident. When I read it again, and again, and again, Roberto Alves, my father, Clarice, his first wife, falling off a cliff, just like us. My hands started to shake. My heart was beating so hard that I thought it was going to come out of my chest. I printed the news. I hid it under the mattress, and I stayed quiet, because I knew he had killed her, and he had tried to kill us. But I needed more proof. I needed to understand. Why did he do this? Why did he marry my mother? Why did she agree to stay with him knowing that? The questions wouldn't leave my head. A few days later, I tried again. I waited for my father to sleep. I went down to the computer. I looked more. I found an old interview from a local newspaper. The reporter had spoken to Clarice's neighbors, and what they said gave me goosebumps. Clarice was a sweet woman. She worked as a teacher. She married Roberto 2 years ago. But in the last few months, she was different. Sad, quiet. Once I saw her with a bruise on her arm. I asked if everything was okay. She said she had fallen, but I didn't believe it. Statement from Maria Santos' neighbor. I closed the computer. I felt a lump in my throat. Clarice was just like my mother. Controlled, afraid, hurt, and in the end, dead. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about how everything was repeated. The way he controlled, the way he isolated, the way he threatened, and the way he killed. And the next day, I tried to talk to my mother. I waited for her to be alone. She was in the backyard, hanging out clothes. Mom, I need to tell you something. She looked at me, tired, always tired. What happened, love? I found out who Clarice was. She dropped her clothes. She turned pale. How? I looked on the internet. I saw the news. She died like we almost died. My mother looked around, nervous, as if my father could appear at any moment. You shouldn't have looked for that. But I needed to know, and now you know. So what? So what if he killed her? And he tried to kill us? Lower your voice. She looked at the house. Tremendous. He's sleeping. But if he hears... Mom, we need to leave. She closed her eyes. He took a deep breath. It's not that simple. Why not? Because he won't let me. We run away. Where to? No money? No place to go? He will find us. And it will be worse. But there is no but. She grabbed my face with both hands. He looked into my eyes. I know what you're feeling. I feel the same thing. But we need to be smart. We need to wait for the right moment. And when will it be? She didn't respond. He just cried. And I realized she had no plan. She was just hoping to survive. And the months passed. I entered adolescence. I became more observant, quieter. My father didn't like it. You look strange, he said once at dinner. Sorry. Strange how? Too quiet. Before you spoke. Now you just watch. I grew up. He grew up wrong. He looked at me with that cold look, the same one he used with my mother. Be careful not to turn out like her, he said, pointing to my mother. Same as? Weak. My mother lowered her head, and I felt such hatred that I almost screamed. But I didn't scream, because I was learning. Learning that with men like that, you don't scream. You plan. Mal nalsum. When I was 14, I found the second envelope. It was in the attic. My father had asked me to get a Christmas box. Go up. I looked, and I saw it. An old box, with the name Clarice written on the lid. I opened it. Inside were photos, letters, and a document. And the photos showed a beautiful woman. Brown hair, grin. On her side, my father. Younger, but with the same look. Cold. Calculator. Oh, Bergie. The letters were from Clarice, handwritten. I read one. Robert, I can't take it anymore. You have changed. He is no longer the man I knew. You arrest me. Watch me. It hurts me. I want to leave, but you don't let it. Please, let me go. Clarice, I felt a shiver. That's exactly what my mother felt. Exactly what she lived for. And then I saw the document. Was an insurance policy. Life insurance, worth 500,000 reais. Beneficiary, Roberto Alves. Clarice's date of death, June 15th, 2000. Payment date, August 2000. I understood everything. He killed her for the money. He pushed her off the cliff, pretended it was an accident, received insurance, and he went on with his life until I met my mother and do it all again. I ran downstairs. I looked for my mother. She was in the kitchen. Mother, he killed her for the money. She covered my mouth. He looked around. I know, she whispered. You know. I always knew. I pushed her hand away. I didn't believe it. You knew and stayed with him? I found out later, long after. How? She sat down. He put his hands on his face. When I married him, I didn't know anything. He didn't talk about his first wife. It said she had died in an accident. I believed. She took a deep breath. But after our fall, I started to get suspicious. I started looking, and I found the same documents that you found. And why didn't you go to the police? She looked at me with eyes full of tears. Because he said if I talked, he would kill you. My world collapsed. Everything made sense. The control, the fear, the silence. She wasn't protecting her. She was protecting me. But we can't leave it like that, I said, crying. I know, but I need proof. Evidence that doesn't involve you. Evidence that does not put you at risk. What kind of evidence? Something that shows his intention. Something that proves he tried to kill us too. And you have this? She hesitated. I have, but it's hidden. In a place he will never find. Where? When the time comes, I'll show you. Baisarma. And I realized that my mother wasn't just surviving. She was planning, waiting, gathering evidence. And when the right moment arrived, she was going to destroy him. But until then, we had to keep pretending. Pretending it was a normal family. Pretending we didn't know. Pretending we weren't afraid. And that's what we did for another 6 years. Until I turned 20. And until the day everything exploded. Because that day, my father made a mistake. A mistake my mother waited for years. He left his cell phone unlocked, and I saw the message that proved everything, and that he was going to put him in jail. I was 20 years old when I found the test that my mother had been waiting for 12 years. It was on a Saturday. My father was taking a shower. He had left his cell phone on the living room table, unlocked. He never left his cell phone unlocked. I looked down the hall. I heard the shower running. I looked at my cell phone, and I took it. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating so hard that I thought I would hear it from the bathroom. I opened the messages, and I saw it. The contact, Mauricio, lawyer. The last message was from 3 days ago. Chulgur, Roberto, Helena's insurance is ready. Same strategy as before. Any accident is valid. You know how to do it. 800,000. Just don't make a mistake this time. I stopped breathing. I read it again and again. Life insurance. Same strategy as before. Any accident. He was going to try again. I scrolled up. There was more. Many more. Afki. I need it to be quick. She's suspicious. You can leave it. It'll look like an accident. Just like Clarice. And the girl? If it has to be both, it's both. But the main insurance is Helena's. My vision became blurry. The tears fell. He was planning. Again. And this time, he was going to kill us for real. I heard the shower turn off. Panic. I took photos of everything. Fast. I sent it to my email. I deleted the history. I placed the cell phone exactly where it was. I ran to my room. I locked the door. I sat on the floor, and I cried. A few minutes later, I heard my mother's voice on the other side of the door. Daughter, open it. I'm fine, Mom. Open, please. I opened it. She entered. He closed the door. He looked me in the eyes. What it was? I showed the cell phone, the photos, the messages. She read it, and he didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just took a deep breath, and he said, "The time has come." And she took me to the bathroom. He turned on the shower to muffle the sound, and he told me everything. "I've been gathering evidence for 6 years," she whispered, "since you found that box in the attic." What evidence? Recordings, photos, documents, everything that shows what he did to Clarice and what he tried to do to us. Where did you hide it? With Aunt Vera. She kept everything, waiting for me to give the signal. And now we act. She explained the plan. I had contacted a lawyer, Dr. Camila, specialist in crimes against life. She analyzed everything, and he said he had an affair, but I needed one more thing, a confession. Confession? As making him talk, in front of witnesses. How do we do this? She smiled. But it wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of someone who suffered so much that they were no longer afraid. Tomorrow is his birthday. I'm going to have a party. I'm going to call the whole family, the friends, And in the middle of the party, I'm going to confront him. Mom, this is dangerous. I know, but it's the only way. If he explodes in front of everyone, if he threatens, if he admits, we record everything and hand it over to the police. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about everything that could go wrong. He could deny it. It could hurt me. He could kill us right there. But I also thought about everything that could go right. And for the first time in 12 years, I felt hope. On Sunday, my mother woke up early, made cake, decorated the house. He called everyone. My father was surprised. Are you having a party? It's your birthday, love. You deserve. He smiled. That fake smile. There was no need. I wanted to. It will be special. And he believed. People started arriving at 3 p.m. Uncles, cousins, work friends, neighbors, everyone greeting, laughing, eating. My father was happy, thinking it was a normal party. But I knew, and my mother knew, that wasn't a party. It was a trap. And on Ekifai. At 4:30, my mother climbed onto a chair. He tapped the glass with a spoon. Guys, can I say something? Everyone stopped, looked. My father smiled, not understanding. Baby, what are you going to do? Just a speech, she said, still smiling. But her smile was different. It was dangerous. I wanted to thank everyone for coming, and I wanted to talk about Roberto, my husband, my daughter's father. Everyone listened. He's an incredible man, right? Worker, gift, protector. My father nodded, embarrassed but proud. But, did you know that he was married before? Silence. My father stopped smiling. Helena, what are you doing? Just telling the story, love. You don't care, do you? She continued. His first wife was called Clarice. She died on a trail, fell off a cliff. It was an accident. At least that's what he said. My father turned white. So as to, why? And truth. She fell. Just like my daughter and I fell 12 years ago. Remember? It was an accident. He was? Because I remember you pushing me. Buzz. People started looking at each other. You are crazy, he shouted. Crazy? Or are you nervous because I found out? She took a folder out of her bag. He threw it on the table. Here, Clarice's insurance policy. 500,000 reais. Paid 2 months after her death. She played another role. Here, my insurance policy. 800,000. Hired 3 months ago. Without me knowing. She threw her cell phone on the table. Speaker on. And here, your lawyer's message. Confirming the plan. And then the audio played. Mauricio's voice echoed throughout the room. Same strategy as before. Any accident is valid. You know how to do it. And my father's voice. And the girl? If it has to be both, it's both. Ina. And silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Until an aunt shouted, My God, Roberto! And then everyone started talking at once. And my father looked around. He saw everyone looking at him. Disgusted. Afraid. Angry. And then he looked at my mother. With hate. You destroyed me, he said. His voice low. Trembling. No, you destroyed yourself. I did everything for you. You tried to kill me. Because you discovered too much. And that's it, he confessed. In front of everyone. My mother smiled. And he took his cell phone out of his pocket. I was recording. Thank you, Roberto. That's what I needed. And then he called the police. My father tried to leave, but the uncles held on. He shouted. He cursed. Threatened. But it was no use. 15 minutes later, the police arrived. And he took it. I saw him being placed in the police car, handcuffed. Screaming that it was a lie. That my mother had invented to Udo. That he was innocent. But no one believed it. Because everyone had heard. And everyone had seen it. My mother collapsed on the couch. He cried. Very. But it wasn't crying out of sadness. It was relief. 12 years of fear. 12 years of silence. 12 years in prison. And finally, she was free. I hugged her. And I cried too. It's over, Mom. It's over, she whispered. And for the first time in years, I saw her truly smile. But the story didn't end there. Because 2 days later, my father sent a message from the prison. And what he said almost destroyed everything again. Because he had one last trump card. A secret that not even my mother knew. And that would change everything. The message arrived 2 days after his arrest. It was Tuesday, mid-afternoon. I was helping my mother clean the house. We had thrown away everything that belonged to him. Clothing, photos, all. And then my cell phone rang. Unknown number. I opened it, and I froze. Daughter, it's me, your father. Listen carefully. Your mother is not who you think. She knew everything from the beginning. She helped me kill Clarice. And if you don't withdraw the complaint, I will prove it. I have documents, photos, recordings. Your mother will be arrested along with me. You will be alone. Think about it. I dropped the cell phone on the floor. My legs gave out. I sat right there in the middle of the room. My mother came running. What it was? I showed the message. She read it and laughed. Isa. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a laugh from someone who was already waiting. He's pathetic, she said. Mom, he's serious. No, it's not. He's desperate. And you're trying to frame me out of this. But what if he really has proof? She looked me in the eyes. He doesn't have it. Because I didn't do anything. I discovered everything later, and I can prove it. She took out her cell phone. He called Dr. Camilla, the lawyer. He put it on speakerphone. Doctor, he sent a message. You're trying to frame me. It was to be expected, the lawyer replied calmly. But don't worry. I've already investigated everything. You have an alibi. You have witnesses. And you have the complete timeline. He can't incriminate you. What if he invents evidence? Then he gets screwed even more. Falsifying evidence is a crime. It will increase his sentence. My mother sighed, relieved. Thank you, doctor. The hearing is Friday. Prepare the emotional. It's going to be heavy. Then that night, I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about everything. In the last 12 years. In fear. In the silence. The nights I heard my mother crying in the bathroom. Alone. Thinking I didn't know. I thought about the times I wanted to scream, I know he's a monster, but I couldn't, because she had asked me to be quiet, to survive. And now, finally, we were going to have justice. Or at least, that's what I expected. And Friday arrived. I woke up with a knot in my stomach. My mother, too. She could barely eat. She stood in front of the mirror for about 20 minutes, just looking, as if he was recognizing himself. Mom, are you okay? She turned, smiled, but the eyes were red. Yeah, I'm just nervous. We will win. I know, but it still hurts. I hugged her. Strong. He doesn't even deserve a tear from you. I know. But it's not for him. It's for everything I lost. For the years I lived in fear. For the woman I could have been. She wiped away her tears. But today I get that back. Today I recover. And we got ready. Simple outfit. Discreet. The lawyer had advised. Nothing flashy. You are the victims. It needs to look like it, she said. My mother put on a navy blue dress. I wore black pants and a white blouse. Before leaving, she held my hand. Thanks. Why? For believing in me. For staying by my side. For not giving up. I shook her hand. Always, Mom. Always. We arrived at the forum at 9 in the morning. There were people. Lots of people. Journalists. Curious. Acquaintances. The whole family was there. Aunt Vera came running and hugged my mother. I'm so proud of you, she said, crying. My mother held on tight. Thanks. For everything. For keeping the evidence. For believing. I always believed. I always knew you were strong. Other people approached. Cousins. Uncles. Neighbors. Everyone saying they were on our side. That they knew she was innocent. That he was always weird. And I realized we were not alone. And we entered the hearing room. My father was already there, handcuffed, on the other side, with his lawyer. He looked at my mother. She looked back, and he didn't deviate. For the first time in 12 years, she was not afraid. I saw it in her eyes, saw the force, the courage, the decision, and I felt proud. The judge entered. Everyone got up. You can sit down. He opened the process. He read it out loud. Roberto Alves, accused of attempted qualified murder, completed murder, life insurance fraud, threat, false imprisonment and bodily harm. How do you declare yourself? My father got up. Innocent, Your Excellency. Buzz in the room. The judge banged the gavel. Silence. Let's proceed. The prosecutor stood up. Tall woman. Firm voice. She opened a folder. Your Excellency, the prosecution will prove that the defendant planned and carried out the murder of his first wife, Clarice Mendez, in June 2000, and that he tried to do the same with his second wife, Helena Alves, and his youngest daughter, 12 years ago. We have documentary, testimonial, and digital evidence, she started to introduce. First, Clarice's insurance policy. 500,000 reais, paid 2 months after death. Second, the forensic report from the time, which was archived. But it showed inconsistencies in my father's testimony. Witnesses said he arrived too calmly, who didn't seem shocked, who waited a long time before asking for help. Third, the messages between him and the lawyer, planning my mother's death. The prosecutor read it out loud. Each word was a stab at the silence of the room. Fourth, the recordings my mother made over the years. His conversations are threatening, controlling, saying she would never make it out, that if he tried, he would kill his daughter first. I heard my own child's voice in the background of one of the recordings, asking if everything was okay, and his voice responding, "Everything's great, daughter. Your mother is just tired." I trembled. My mother held my hand. Fifth, the testimony of neighbors, friends, and family. Aunt Vera went up. He told me how my mother stopped answering the phone, how she disappeared, how afraid she was to leave the house. An ex-coworker of my mother's came up. He said that she resigned, on her husband's orders, that he showed up at work one day and said she wasn't coming back. A neighbor said he heard screams, several times, but my father always said it was a couple's argument. Each statement was a punch. Every witness was a bombshell. Even his family, who always defended him, remained silent. When it was the defense's turn, my father's lawyer tried to argue. Your Excellency, my client claims that his wife is inventing everything out of revenge, that she manipulated documents, that she faked recordings, that she... Your Excellency, may I speak? My mother got up. The judge looked at her. He can. My mother took a deep breath. He got up, and he spoke. I lived 12 years in fear, 12 years of silence, 12 years of pretending everything was fine, because he threatened my daughter. He said if I spoke, he would kill her in front of my eyes. She pointed at me. She was 8 years old when we fell off that cliff. 8. She fractured ribs. I fractured my shoulder. We hit our heads. And him, he didn't have a scratch. Because he didn't fall. He pushed. Her voice shook, but she continued. And when I tried to tell him, he said no one would believe it, that I had hit my head, that I was confused. And he was right. Nobody believed it. Just my daughter. Because she saw it. She felt it. She knew. She looked at my father. You can call me a liar. You can say I invented everything. But you know the truth. And me too. And now, everyone knows. She took a deep breath. You killed Clarice. You tried to kill me. And you were going to try again. But I didn't let it. Because I have a daughter. And I wasn't going to let her grow up without a mother. Just like you left Clarice's parents without a daughter. Silence. Total. Even his lawyer was speechless. My father lowered his head. And for the first time, I saw shame in his eyes. The judge banged the gavel. I will analyze the evidence and give my verdict. 2-hour break. He left. We waited. My mother was shaking. I held her hand. Aunt Vera brought water, coffee, but no one was able to drink it. We stayed there, waiting. In 2 hours and 15 minutes later, the judge returned. Everyone got up. He sat down, opened the folder. He looked at my father, and he said, considering the evidence presented, the statements taken, the seriousness of the facts and the coldness with which the defendant acted, I declare Roberto Alves guilty of qualified homicide for ill motive against Clarice Mendez, attempted qualified murder against Helena Alves and her minor daughter, life insurance fraud, threat, false imprisonment, and serious bodily injury. He hit the hammer. Sentence: 35 years of closed prison, without the right to progression in the first 15 years. The room exploded. Screams, crying, applause. My mother slumped in her chair. He covered his face with his hands and cried. He cried like he had never cried before. I hugged her. Aunt Vera hugged her. People came. Everyone wants to touch her, congratulate, console, and she just cried, not out of sadness, of relief, of freedom. Bonliadorg from across the room, my father shouted. This is injustice. I am innocent. She lied. She manipulated everything. But no one listened. The police caught him. They handcuffed them again. They dragged it out. He screamed. He cursed. Threatened, but it didn't matter anymore, because he had lost, and we had won. When we left the forum, the sun was strong, the sky blue, there were people at the door, journalists, cameras. My mother stopped. He looked at them, and he said, I want all women who are going through what I went through to know. It is possible to leave, it is possible to report, and it is possible to win. She took a deep breath. I know it's difficult. I know it's scary, but you are not alone. Seek help. Talk to someone. Because your life is worth more than any threat. She held my hand. And if you have children, fight for them, because they need you, alive. Monsaten. Most we walked away, slowly, in silence. My mother stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. He closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. The wind hit her face. The sun shone, and I saw it. I saw the woman she always was. Strong, brave, free. Only now, she knew it. In the following days, everything changed. My mother started sleeping better, smiling more, leaving the house without looking back. She called Aunt Vera again, for old friends. He began to rebuild the bridges he had destroyed. And every day she said, I can't believe it's over. I'm still waiting for him to show up. It won't appear, Mother. He's arrested, and it will stay for a long time. I know, but it still seems unreal. And 2 months later, she opened a sewing studio. It was always her dream, since I was a child. But my father never let me. You don't have the talent for this, he said. But she had. Very. Within 3 months, she already had steady clients. In 6, she hired help. And every day, when she came back from the studio, she smiled. A real smile. I finished college. I became a psychologist. I wanted to help women like my mother. Women in prison, afraid, silenced. And every time I answer one, I tell her story. And I say, it is possible to leave. It is possible to start over. I know, because my mother did it. And you can do it too. Ani dinidos nidi today. I am 22 years old. My mother is 45, and we are happy. It's not perfect happiness. There are difficult days. He has nightmares. It has triggers. There are days when my mother wakes up scared, thinking he's there. There are days when I hear a noise and my heart races. But we are alive, and we are free, and that's what matters. We moved. For a small house, but ours. No bad memories. No shadows. We painted the walls yellow. My mother chose. He said it was the color of hope. We plant flowers in the garden. Roses, sunflowers, jasmines. And every morning, we have coffee on the balcony, looking at the sunrise. Well, my father rotted in jail. I don't visit. Neither does my mother. He sent letters. At first they were threats. Then they turned into apologies. Now these are supplications. We burn them all, because he doesn't deserve forgiveness. He deserves oblivion. Sometimes I think about that day, on the cliff, in the fall, in fear, and I think we were pushed off a cliff, but what my parents hid afterwards was even scarier. But today I know, what my mother hid was not complicity. It was courage. Courage to survive. Courage to protect. Courage to plan. Courage to win. And that, no one can take away from her. If you're going through something similar, listen, you're not alone. There are people who can help. There's a way out. Have hope. Call 911. Speak to someone you trust. Look for a women's police station. And if you know someone who is stuck in a situation like this, reach out. Because sometimes, just one person believing makes all the difference. That's what Aunt Vera did for my mother, and that's what saved us. Today, my mother and I have tea every Sunday. On the porch of our house. We talk, laughs, cry, remember, and it follows. She tells me about the plans for the studio. I tell about my patients, and when the sun rises and lights up her face, I see the woman who survived, the woman who won. I am woman who taught me that love doesn't hurt, that fear is not prison, and the truth always wins. And this is my story, my mother's story, and the story of how we escaped the monster. And have you ever been through something like this? Do you know someone who passed? Tell us here in the comments. Let's create a support network. Together we are stronger, and if this story touched you, subscribe to the channel. There are many other stories of overcoming here. Every week, I bring you a new story, of women who won, from mothers who fought, of daughters who survived. Because we need to talk about this. We need to show that it is possible. See you in the next video. And remember, you are not alone. Never. We're together. Always.